In campaign 2018 local matters, we're taking a look at Maryland. Early voting is underway in the state's primary, and sites have opened up across the state at 10 a.m. and at 80 different locations. Republican Governor Larry Hogan is looking to keep his seat while a crowded field of Democratic candidates all battle it out for a chance to take him on. Erin Cox is the State House bureau chief at the Baltimore Sun, and she joins us now to discuss all of this. Okay, so Erin, before we sort of get to Governor Hogan's Democratic challengers, let's talk about him for a minute. Is he well liked in the state, and what kind of campaign is he running this go round?
The governor is extraordinarily well liked in Maryland. This is a state where Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1, and Larry Hogan has approval ratings that are in the 70s. He's the second most popular Republican governor. Second most popular governor in the entire country. And so he is running kind of a counteroffensive during the primary. He doesn't have a challenger. But as these Democrats are kind of fighting it out, he keeps reminding people exactly what they like about him, that he lowered tolls, that he tends not to be partisan, that he's kept an arm's length from Donald Trump, and that he tries to present himself very much as a bipartisan guy who cares more about getting things done than trying to score political points.
I want to ask you about his relationship with President Trump. We've seen Republicans in primaries lose for not supporting the president. What kind of relationship does he have with President Trump?
Frankly, no relationship. During the presidential bid, he said that he didn't plan to vote for him. He wouldn't endorse him. He was very public about the fact that he wrote in his father's name, a now deceased Congressman Larry Hogan Sr., rather than vote for the president. When pressed on his views about the president, he demurs. He doesn't answer. He says that, he's focused on leading Maryland. The Democrats contend that, he hasn't done enough to, quote unquote, stand up to Donald Trump. But Larry Hogan's done a very good job of insulating himself from the Trump administration, unlike a lot of other Republicans across the country. He's been able to keep himself in an arm's length, and in a state where, something like 40% of Democrats say their top issue is getting Trump out of office, Larry Hogan has been a very astute politician in making sure that whatever is happening with Donald Trump is not associated with him.
Maryland is a predominantly blue state, and as you said, there may be less worry about criticizing the president, but do you think that could hurt the governor's chances at this point?
Well, that's actually one of the main lines of attack from the Democrats who are running against him. They're saying that he may not, be on Donald Trump's side, so to speak, but a state like Maryland that, approved gay marriage, abolished the death penalty, is very progressive and left-leaning, that they need a leader who will, quote unquote, stand up to Donald Trump, who will fight him, who will go to Congress and argue with him, who will publicly criticize him, much the way Maryland's Attorney General Brian Frosh, who brought the emoluments lawsuit against the Trump administration, has done. And so that's one of the main lines of attack that the Democrats are trying to make, hoping that it sticks, hoping that they can persuade Democrats to show up and vote for a Democrat because they need somebody who is more aggressive against the president.
Erin, I want to turn to the Democratic challengers. Who are the front runners, and do you think there's anyone who really has a chance to unseat Hogan?
Right, so the two front runners are former NAACP Chief Ben Jealous. He's a very progressive guy. He was a surrogate for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has endorsed him. He's running on a platform that includes a lot of social progressive issues, a $15 minimum wage. He calls for the end of mass incarceration, free college, free community college, and his platform is very much to the left of the party. The second front runner is a gentleman named Rushern Baker. He's the Prince George's County executive. That's the second largest jurisdiction here in Maryland. It's a majority African-American jurisdiction. He's got all of the establishment support. Most of the politicians who are elected in Maryland back him. Whether or not anybody has a chance against Hogan is a really interesting question. Because of the voter registration advantage that Democrats have, the only way Larry Hogan wins is if he gets every Republican to show up, every independent to show up, and a lot of Democrats to cross party lines. Recent polling has shown that that's something that is within his reach. And so Democrats are out at the polls today deciding whether they want to pick somebody who is at the left side of the party to kind of provide a strong contrast to Larry Hogan and pick a different direction for the state. If they want sort of a more centrist Democrat who is going to provide an alternative to Larry Hogan, or, one of the four other very credible, very accomplished candidates who are also in the race.
Erin, before you go, I want to ask you about the congressional races, the House and Senate. What do we know about those?
So in Maryland, most of the state has been so well gerrymandered that there's not a lot of competition in a primary. There is one open seat, Congressman John Delaney from Western Maryland has decided to run for president, leaving an open contest. Over there, we have several candidates on both sides of the aisles kind of fighting it out to see whether that swing district gets a strong Democrat or a strong Republican, or both, facing each other off in November. The other somewhat interesting primary race we have here in Maryland is that Chelsea Manning is running against Senator Ben Cardin. All polls show that Cardin's going to walk away with this, but it should be very interesting to see what sort of campaign she puts up in the final days here.
Certainly a lot to watch for in Maryland. Erin Cox, thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.